Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Today we're going to be making some bread. However, what makes this different is that today I'm going to be trying out a new kitchen gadget that I found that is pretty cool. So I'll be showing that to you here as soon as we build our dough. So today we're going to be making some savory bread, and as you can see the ingredients laid out, we're going to need 3 cups of flour. I'm using all-purpose flour, and I always grab a little bit of extra just in case I need it. We're going to be using 1 can of evaporated milk, the 12-ounce can. We're going to be using a half a stick of butter. We're going to be using 1 teaspoon of yeast, 1 egg, half of a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. When we combine all of this together and do our magic, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be very tasty. So stick around. We're going to start by adding our milk to a pot. Now you can do this in a microwave if you like. In addition to that, we're going to go ahead and add a half stick of butter. That's all we need to do right now. Now we're going to go ahead and warm this up. My goal is to get this to about 130 degrees or so, remembering that when we combine our wet ingredients with our flour, that is going to bring the temperature way down so that it doesn't kill the yeast. We're going to start off with our half a teaspoon of salt, our half teaspoon of yeast, and we're going to put a full teaspoon of sugar. Now all we need to do is mix this around until all of the dry ingredients are pretty much well mixed through. This is not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody can do this. And for those of you that have never made your own homemade bread before, I guarantee you this one thing. If you make it one time, you will not want to eat store-bought bread again. This, ladies and gentlemen, is one of my oldest bread making pans. And I really like this pan because it's like my oldest one. And I've used it for a very long time. And I'm still going to use it. I'm actually going to use it today. I saw this and I was like, what in the world? And what this is this is a special bread loaf pan that allows you to make bread that comes out nice and square so that you can make sandwiches with it. As you can see, it's nice and square. It's got some vent holes in the bottom and it is very nice. I tried it out once and it wasn't quite a success, but I learned how to use it. And today I'm going to share that with you guys. That way, if you guys are interested in making a nice square loaf, so that you can make sandwiches that are kind of like uniform instead of, lopsided, you guys can go ahead and try it. This is not very expensive at all. I think I paid like $16 for this. And from what I can see, it's pretty good quality. Before we add our wet ingredients into our flour, we're going to go ahead and whisk our egg. And we're going to incorporate a little bit of this liquid in here. A little bit at a time so that we can incorporate our eggs into the warm liquid. We don't want to put the eggs in there. Well, that liquid is about 130, 135 degrees because we don't want our eggs to cook. I think this is called tempering, but you guys let me know. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a trained chef or cook or baker or anything like that. I just do this because it brings me inner peace and I really enjoy doing it. Let's go ahead and put everything in here. Let's go ahead and put it in the dry ingredients, but let's go ahead and take a quick temperature just to make sure. Right now we're reading about 122 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just fine. Once we put it into our dried ingredients, it'll probably bring that temperature down to, I would say, very close to 100, if not just below 100. So let's see what happens, ladies and gentlemen. So as you can see here, the dough is pretty much, formed. All we have to do is put it all together. And like I said, you have to get your hands a little dirty for this. I like to go ahead and knead my dough in the bowl at first so I can get all of the little crumbles that are in there before I put it on my counter. But once you get it kneaded in the bowl right here, I like to take all the things off the side. Once you get it kneaded off the bowl right here, if you use the measurements that I gave you, it should be pretty good enough to work on the counter without really having to knead any flour. I always get a little extra flour just in case, because you never know. Sometimes the humidity in the air is a little more than it normally is, and that really does affect how much moisture is retained by this dough. So now that I have it like this right here, I'm going to go ahead and dump this on the counter, and I'm going to go ahead and start kneading it. I'm going to put a little bit, just a tiny bit of flour, because you see my hands right here? I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of flour on the counter, just to make sure that we don't have too much difficulty kneading it. But we shouldn't have to knead this for very long. You see how easy that was, ladies and gentlemen? There's no need to knead dough for like 15-20 minutes, in my opinion at least, okay? Like I said, I'm not a professional baker. I rather let the gluten build up while it's proofing instead of kneading and kneading and kneading, okay? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of oil in my bowl. And the bowl is, you know, it's full of little crumbs and stuff. That's no big deal. It's never ever caused an ill effect for me, so there you go. Probably about a half a teaspoon is what I put in there. And what we're going to do now is I am going to try something that I've already tried and it works great, that one of you guys told me about, right? One of our community members told me, or probably several of you, that really fixes the issue that I have with proofing dough in a house that averages around 64, maybe 65 degrees. My wife got me this heating pad a while back because I was having a little bit of back pain. And someone in the comments a while back said, you can use a heating pad, it works really well. And I'm like, wow, why in the world did I never think of that? So all I do is I just put it on high, actually. Leave it on high. This has a timer that shuts off after 2 hours, but it shouldn't take 2 hours at all for our dough to at least double in size. Oops, sorry about that. So what I do is I just go ahead and take the bowl, put it in the middle of the heating pad, as you see right there. And then I'm going to put some plastic wrap on the top, and then I'm going to cover it. Let me show you how I do that. So now that I have my plastic wrap on the top, all I do is I just take this corner of the heating pad over it, and then I take a towel, a big towel, you know, like a bathing towel, and I put it over the whole thing, just like that. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, this is kind of like bubbled up a little bit. So let's take our towel off, put it to the side because we're going to need that again. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off real quick. I turned off my heating pad, and look at that. It's about 1.5 to 2 times this size. Not that much bigger. So let me go ahead and get the pad out of the way so that we can get this dough out of here, shape it, and then put it in our pan. Here's our pan. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of olive oil on the side, and then I'm going to go ahead and coat all the sides. I'm going to go ahead and put our bread in there. Our dough in there is not bread yet. Put this lid on about like that. I'm going to go ahead and proof it one more time. And the key is, I think, that you want to make sure that you start baking it when the dough is like within a 1/2 inch from the top. So when the dough has risen to about a 1/2 inch from the top or so, we put our lid on and we start baking it. And this just happens to fit perfectly in my Coleman oven. So that's how I'm going to go ahead and bake it, my Coleman oven. Now that we've got them both on our heating pad, I'm going to go and do the same thing that I did before. Just go ahead and cover this and let it rest. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long time for me, but not for you guys. So this has been rising for about an hour and a half. So it's been pretty slow, but I think it looks really good. So as you can see here, our dough is about a half an inch or so from the top. So that's what we want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close this completely. I am in the process of getting my Coleman oven preheated. So let me show you what that looks like for those of you that haven't seen this yet. As you can see, it's just a matter of putting it on top of a single burner. You can see the flame going there. And it just happens that this burner is one of my medium-sized burners. And if I leave it on high, it's just enough to keep it around 325, 350 on a constant basis, which is perfect. And now that you see that it's at about 325 degrees, I'm going to open this. And you will see what I meant about this little pan that I got, that it fits perfectly in there. Just be careful not to touch the oven as you're putting it in there. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to set my timer for 23 minutes. And then I'm going to take it out. So right now it's about 10:13 or so. So we'll be back around 10:35, 10:30. Time has come, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see there, it's a little over 300 degrees. It maxed out at about 350, so I lowered it a little bit just to make sure that it doesn't burn. But we're going to see how this came out. I'm pretty excited to see. Well, we don't have any dough or anything coming out of the pan, so let's see. Oh, you guys thought I was going to put my hand in there without using a, whatever you call these things, pot holders, didn't you? You weren't going to say anything. Now, this is the bigger pan. As you can see, it didn't quite fill the whole thing, but there's really nothing wrong with that. Oh, this one will go in straight. This one won't fit in sideways. Put that in there. And we'll close it up. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes, and when this cools down a little bit, see how it came out. Let's attempt to open this now. It's been a few minutes. Let me see. Oh, it's not very hot. Oh, it doesn't look like the bread reached the entire top. So, okay. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Live and learn. Next time we'll know to let the bread rise a little more. But that does look pretty, doesn't it? Let's see how easily it comes out. Oh, look at that. Come right out. And look at that. It looks really nice. So now next time we know to let the bread rise, the dough rise almost all the way up to the top before we put the lid on all the way and put it in the oven. But it came out nice and square. I would have liked it if it would have come up all the way to the top and been just as square as the bottom. It looks kind of crispy. It's still a little bit warm, so we're going to let it sit there before we cut into it and see what the inside looks like. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's cool enough for us to cut into it. I want you guys to see what it looks like inside. You know what would be a nice thing, though, to have with this is one of those uniform bread slicers where you can put this inside and slice them evenly. Or uniformly, I guess you can say. But it's cutting really nice. It doesn't feel dense. And look at that. That looks really good. And guess what? I'm going to try it. Oh, it smells great. I already pre-staged a little tab of butter. And let that get soft there for a second. Then we're going to spread it and give it a try. Alright, let's spread this bad boy. Oh yeah. Very nice. I'll tell you what. Any of you that have never made your own bread, I'm not lying to you when I tell you that once you've made it and tasted the difference between your own homemade bread and the air that you buy at the store, because that's what you buy at the store, it's just air, right, with fillers, that you will not know what you're missing. And once you do it, you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to want to buy stuff from the store again. In the summertime, I buy bread from the store because I'm a lot busier outside. In the wintertime, it works out really good. And look at that. Let's give it a try. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say? It is outstanding. We learned a little bit of a lesson today that we want to let it come up almost even with the top before we put it in the oven. That way it'll rise a little more. But considering that this dough rose about 3 times bigger than its original size than when we put it in the pan, I think it came out pretty good. And this is still going to be doable for making some sandwiches. But to tell you the truth, more than likely, we'll just eat it like you're seeing right here. A slice of bread, maybe put it in the toaster, have it with a coffee in the morning. Give me a second if you guys want to see what the other loaf looks like, because it's almost done. It's only got a couple minutes left. I'll show you how that came out, and then we'll call it a day. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I think this was a success for the most part. Why did I make this video, ladies and gentlemen? I've made bread videos before. Well, number one, I wanted to show you my new gadget. I think it works really well. I just have to practice with it a little more. But I think we were about 95% successful with that. The main reason I do this video and do videos like this is to show you all that you can save a lot of money by making your own bread and cooking your own food from scratch instead of spending a lot of money at the stores and at restaurants. Of course, we want to support our local businesses. But if the day ever comes where you can't get this bread at the stores, for example, I was reading an article today saying that there were some supermarkets closing. I forgot what state it was. That there were actual supermarkets that were closing because of what's going on. Where are you going to get your bread if you can't get any? And if you don't eat bread, no problem. But go ahead and substitute that need with something else that you need. Get it now. Stock up on the things that you need in order to make the things that you use on a daily basis so that you can have them. And learn how to make these things. You don't have to make it all the time, but at least you know how to make it in case you need to. Having said that, thank you very much for joining in. Truly appreciate you guys. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I'm out.